person become financially free while working in IT?
I would say IT is one of the highest paying fields in India.
What is the meaning of burned out?
Something that happens over time.
And sharing drinks helps build better connection.
I love my drink.
So hi Amol, first of all very warm welcome to our show. So कोई स्पेशल क्राइटेरिया नहीं रहेगा. बेसिकली कुछ हमारे क्वेश्चंस है, कुछ फ्रेंड्स के क्वेश्चन होंगे जो हमारी एज में है. तो आपके एक्सपीरियंस से उसके आंसर्स ट्राई करेंगे.
Sure.
So let's start. First question is how you started your journey from the bachelors. अभी तक की क्या जर्नी रही है आपकी? तो उसके बारे में थोड़ा सा बताइए.
Sure. So I did my BSc in chemistry and then my masters in computer applications from BJTI in Bombay. And my earlier plan was to do a chemistry BSc Tech from UDCT.
Okay.
That was what was known back then. Computers were not a big deal back then. This is 95, 98, around that time.
Okay.
So मैंने बोला कि ठीक है, I'll finish my BSc and I'll go to UDCT. But I had a friend from college who said that computers is a new field and you might be a good fit for computers.
Okay.
तो मैंने फिर एक एपटेक इंस्टीट्यूट है, आई थिंक इट्स स्टिल अराउंड, उसमें मैंने एक 1.5 साल का कोर्स किया तब. एंड इट वाज गुड, आई लाइक्ड इट. And I was doing it with another friend, and that guy was more into computers, and he said that you should also look at some other options beyond aptech.
Okay.
And he recommended that I look at a course from Vijay Mukhi, who was he just passed away. So he was a very well-known internet persona, and he was very famous back then as a guy who who was like introducing India to newer things, etc., etc. So he had a course. I used to do it on the weekends for 3 months or so, and that was a very good course. I learned a lot of new things. I was exposed to a new world, and I realized that computers is a good fit for me.
Okay.
And I thought that I should do this instead of chemistry.
Okay.
And then I looked at what my options were after BSc. I was doing a BSc in chemistry already. I'm like, okay, after BSc in chemistry, is there something possible? So there was MCA was an option. There are other things you can do in other places, etc. But MCA was a straightforward option for me at that point of time.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'll do it. For that, I had to give an entrance exam from UDCT, not UDCT, sorry, NCST.
Okay.
And NCST is, I think, merged with CDAC now. It's no longer standalone. But back then, this is 98 again. I did that and got into a VJTI, did my MCA.
Okay.
And that's how I started. And MCA back then was a 3 years course. It's 2 years in some places now, some places it's 3 years. The last year for Bombay University was complete internship.
Okay.
So that internship I got in Persistent in Pune.
Okay.
So Persistent had come to VJTI and they had done an open house for regular recruitment, not for internship.
Okay.
And we talked to the recruiters there and said that we are looking for internship. We have a 1-year internship in our masters. And they said, okay, you can sit for the exam and we'll consider you for internship. And I got that. And that was the first time I moved to Pune. I'm a Bombay born and bred.
Okay.
I moved to Pune for my internship and I liked the company. It was a good company. So I joined them after my internship as a full-time employee and then stuck around for several years. That's a whole another story.
Okay.
Spent about 12 years, 13 years in Persistent.
Okay.
And then बीच में 2 साल के लिए I went to the US through Persistent as an L1 transfer for an on-site job, and then I came back to Persistent, stayed here for a few years, and then moved to Coriolis Technologies. When I came back and resigned from Persistent, I moved to Coriolis, and I've been here for 12 years also.
Oh, nice. Nice.
So that's how it is.
So आपने बोला कि आपने यूएसए में भी कुछ टाइम काम किया है. So what challenges and opportunities did you encounter while working in abroad?
So actually it was a very, very interesting time for me. I went to the US primarily because of monetary concerns. So I needed money because I had just bought a house in India and my EMI was too high. I couldn't afford it, etc., etc. So I got a I talked to my boss and he was very, very cooperative. He asked me to look at this option of going on an L1 and I took it.
Okay.
So I went there for just about 2 years, a little less than 2 years. My plan was always a short-term plan, just to make sure that my monetary concerns are resolved, I'll come back to India. And the idea was that I would go there, work on site and come back. And what I learned there was the culture is very different in terms of individual responsibility and individual contribution.
Okay.
So in India, if you look at a team here in a services company especially, or even in a product company,
Okay.
you will have much more cooperative workflow where people talk to each other, ask questions. I don't understand this, can you sit with me, help me code it here, etc. In the US, it's very different. At least the company I worked with, which was VMware, it was very different. People were focused on their job and they were specialized. In India, we are much more generalists. We look at multiple technologies. I worked on like 20 languages till now. I don't know. I don't even know how many languages I worked on. But there, people were like Java programmer. I know Java. That's it.
Okay.
Or that is
very particular.
Very particular and very, what do you call it? Focused on their own tasks.
Okay.
So people would be given tasks, they would work on them and they would deliver them. And very professionally. It's not like you have to follow up on it. Everybody was senior, everybody had several years of experience. Very few juniors in a company like VMware back then. So it was a nice experience. It was a very different experience. And you also get to see different lifestyle of people. People had, so in the US, for example, people would hardly ever work past 5:30, but they would start very early. Okay. So I had people who were coming in at 5 a.m. in the morning.
Okay.
So come to office at 5 a.m., leave at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. That was also like some people's lifestyle was that. Okay. And that this was the Bay Area. The reason for that for some people was that beat the traffic. Traffic was bad at 7:30, go at 5. So other people's lifestyle was that way. So people would sleep early, get up early.
Okay.
Many people, if they would stay in office past 5:30, would order dinner in office. Because they would not say, I'll go home and eat at 8 o'clock. Nobody ate at 8 o'clock. People were done by 6, 6:30, 7. So it was very different in that sense. Okay. But it was also, since it's a Bay Area, there are a ton of Indians, ton of Asians. Yeah. You also got to see a lot of cultures. So you get exposure to cuisines, to cultures, to music, different languages. So I had close friends who were Chinese people, close friends who were Latinos. It was good. It was a very good exposure and learning experience, and it helps you in the life in general, realizing people have different thought processes, different lifestyles, different priorities in life. Helps you quite a bit.
So आपने MCA भी किया एंड आप फॉरेन में भी आपने काम किया है. तो एक क्वेश्चन ये है कि डू यू थिंक परसुइंग मास्टर्स अब्रॉड ऑफर सिग्निफिकेंट एडवांटेज कंपेयर टू कंप्लीटिंग इट इन इंडिया देन सीकिंग अपॉर्चुनिटी overseas?
So that is an interesting question. It has two aspects to it. If you are planning to spend the rest of your life abroad, or at least a majority of the rest of your life abroad, where you are trying to make sure that I'll go there and I'll work there, I'll have my career there, I'll retire there, maybe come back to India or stay there forever, something like that, then for me, then it's a good idea to do a master's there, because you're spending a lot of money there. Right, and you are investing a lot of time and money getting into masters and doing. So you should recoup the money. You should think about it. If you're just trying to make money or maybe go for a short term, it doesn't make sense for me. Especially if I know people who go for their masters abroad and then come back and work in India. And I find that a little dicey. I'm like, why are you doing that? Unless it's like a label that you want, that I'm a foreign educated person. I don't see an advantage. There are some advantages, like there might be some really, really good college, London School of Economics or Harvard or something, where that is worth it, going there for the education. But people go to any institute. It is not like they are going to a specific thing. They are like, I want to go to Australia, I want to go to Canada, I want to go to the US, UK, anywhere, many places. And if even for bachelors, not just masters, if you are planning to make your career there, if you're trying to make a life there, it makes sense. If you're just trying to make money, I would rather say you do a good course here and you get a job there. Of course, there are people who don't get a job with a course here, but that is very little a problem with the course and more of the person.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I know many people who will, like including me, right, who did a master's here or a bachelor's here, and I got a job there, and I settled in the US, right?
Yeah.
Of course, there are also aspects to that, as in, are there recruitment? Is the recruitment going on? What is the environment like?
Yeah.
Right? If it is a bad environment, if there is no job, then people will not get it. Even people who are doing masters in the US won't get a job. People are coming back. So right now it's a little downturn. So people are not getting a job very easily. Market is quite low. Yeah.
So Amol, आपने persistent में more than 12 years काम किया and अभी आप Coriolis में हो more than 12 years से. So from your experience, what are the key advantages and drawback of staying with a single company for a long period compared to switching role every few years?
So I would say that it is more about inertia. So some people like me are very, very cool and casual about their career, about life. So I personally, I think persistent, I spent 12 years and I would have spent 25 years there. Okay. The only primary reason I changed was primarily because of my US trip. Okay. So what I realized was, when I joined Persistent, it was a very small company. It was like, it was under 200 when I joined. Okay. Including my batch, which was about 60 people, which was one of the biggest batches then. And it was a very small company, everybody knew each other. It was a very nice family atmosphere. Kind of. It's almost like Coriolis is now, right? Everybody knows everybody, you know what other projects are, etc., etc. Then over time, Persistent grew. It decided to go public. Things happened. It became a much bigger company. And it is like a frog who's in water and the water is slowly boiling and you don't realize. So it was like, you don't realize things are changing. Some things you don't like are coming in, but you don't care. You're living with it. Then I went to the US and spent a couple of years, and I came back, and it was like a much higher temperature for me in the analogy. Right? I came out, it's a different company. The company I left and the company I came back to are two totally different companies. And things were far more rigid, more processes, very little personalization. Exceptions went away. Of course, exceptions had to be built because of the whole process business. So earlier it was a much more cooler, much more informal setup. Then it became very, very formal, and also you started seeing the problems that you did not see earlier, right? So like I had already spent like 5-6 years in Persistent, then spent a couple of years outside, then I came back. So it was almost 10 years, 10 years in Persistent by then, including the US stuff. So at that point I realized that things have changed and they are no longer like the old company. And then it was like I realized that this is not working out. At the same time, I realized that my role had changed quite a bit. I was very much a hands-on person. I was a technical guy and I like to be a technical guy. But in a services company, it is very difficult to have senior technical people, because even on the company's side, it is very difficult to justify giving them a higher salary. Right? Because if you look at the billing rates, for example, they are not higher. They are higher, but they are not high enough to justify a salary. Right? So you are like, okay, there's a problem. And typically what happens with services companies is that you don't get a core architect kind of role outsourced. You would get implementer roles outsourced or senior developer roles outsourced. But especially the kind of companies Persistent worked with and Coriolis works with now, which are software companies. They will have their own software team. They will have their own senior architects. They will have their own PMs. Right? So those things tend to limit the growth of a technical person in an outsourced situation. So at that point of time, I had to kind of convert to a manager to a large extent. So it was like a role change, which I did not want. At the same time, it was like I realized that the atmosphere I was in was no longer as cool as it was when I joined. And that led to a sort of slow burnout. So over the next couple of years, I burnt out and I was like, I don't want to work anymore. And I effectively quit. So I did not plan to join Coriolis or anything. I just quit Persistent. I was sitting at home for several months. Trying to figure out what to do with my life. So that is what happened to me with the long thing. If you look at a short-term goal, this is something I actually heard from somewhere. Maybe Anand was saying it on an interview somewhere, that nowadays it's become very transactional. A job is a transaction. right? Which is you join a company for a monetary concern. The company is paying you something and they expect you to do your job, right?
Yeah, right.
And so that is fine. You could think of it like a little bit longer contract, right? So you are working for a project for 2 years maybe, or 1 year or whatever, and then you move on, right? It's a transaction. You could look at it in a different way. Think of it like developing a website, right? If you're developing a website, it's like a 1 month job at the most, less than that. So a person gives you money and says, here's my website, I want it developed. You do it and you say, okay, I'm done. He pays you and you're done. Right? This is a short contract. So this is where people will go in the future.
Okay.
Right? And there might never be a real long-term employment kind of situation anymore.
It's like a
freelancing, but I would not call it it's effectively freelancing, but I would not call it freelancing wholly, in the sense that it could be that you have a bench and you kind of bid for projects, or you bid for resources. That could be one way of thinking about it. But that's far in the future. Right now we have this whole Infosys Wipro kind of setup where you have thousands of people on bench already, just allocated to places and stuff like that,
right.
which is different.
So आपने बोला burn out. Exactly what is the meaning of burned out in a company for the starters? Like अभी मेरे को नहीं पता इस चीज के बारे में. Exactly क्या होता है burn out?
No, so this is not something that should be something that you guys face, right? It is something that happens over time, right? So there are many discussions nowadays also online. If you look at it, people are discussing 90-hour work week and all those things, right? So those are fine in some cases, right? Especially when you have deadlines, or if you have overcommitted or some such thing where you are working very hard. But it cannot be a lifestyle. You cannot say 90-hour work week for the entire year, right? Because then what's happening is it's fine, you're delivering, but you have no work-life balance. Right? So you should look at your life in multiple aspects. Work is one of the aspects, right? You have to have your entertainment, your family time, good sleep, workout, good food, whatever, right? There are multiple aspects to it. You have to maintain your health. If you are not doing all those things, then you are going to suffer at some point of time, right? In my particular case, I would not say burnout was anything to do with overworking. It was more to do with the fact that I was unhappy with the changes I was seeing around me. Right? As I said, in persistence case, that is what happened. I was unhappy with the company I joined and the company I was in now were two different companies, and that was one of the major factors that led to my burnout. This is that I was like, I'm no longer happy working, and then at that point it aggravates everything. Once you have one bad point in your mind, it aggravates every other point. What am I doing? What is my role like? Everything starts affecting you. It will affect you also at some point. You say, my technology is not good. I want to work in React. Why am I working in Angular? Those kind of absurd questions will start coming in, which will affect your life, which will affect your mental process. And then you are like, might as well take a step back. So that's when the burnout is really in effect, where you feel that I don't want to do this anymore. And you have to recognize it a little earlier, so that you don't really get burnt out. Take a break once in a while. And this is true for everybody, I would say. Take a good break once in a while. Take a week off in a quarter maybe, or every 6 months. Go out, spend some time with family, friends. Take a complete break. That will help you quite a bit. You can also get a better perspective, like a 1,000-foot view of your life, instead of just sticking very close to it.
Exactly. So with such a demanding career, how do you balance your professional responsibilities with personal time with family?
So as I discussed, work-life balance matters here. You should definitely make sure that when you are committing to certain things, you are committing with a reasonable buffer. You are committing to whatever tasks you can take up in a reasonable amount of time. I can understand working 10 hours a day. I can understand, like for example, for me, I work from 9 to 5, but I have calls at 8:30 at night because my clients are in the US. Or I might have a call at 7:30 in the morning, right? So there are some aspects to it, but then I make sure that I have a break between 2 and 3 in the afternoon, where I'm not working on anything. I'm relaxed. I
Relaxed.
take a break. So that matters, and it is not just about taking a break for yourself, but spending time with family or doing something else, right? Which makes a difference. So for example, my personal relaxation is reading a book. So I try to make sure I have like 2-3 hours of reading time every day.
Okay. Fictionist or non-fiction?
Fiction.
Okay.
Heavily fiction. I try to read non-fiction, but it tends to just burn my brain out very quickly. So I read a couple of non-fiction books and I'm back to fiction.
ओके सो आपने बोला कि आप फ्री टाइम में रिलैक्स करने के लिए फिक्शन बुक पढ़ते हो बट मैं ये सोचता हूँ कि जैसे मैं नॉन फिक्शन बुक्स पढ़ता हूँ और जब मैं सोचता हूँ कि फिक्शन बुक सारे मतलब कोई सजेस्ट करता है तो फिर मैं सोचता हूँ कि यार नॉन फिक्शन से मैं कुछ सीख रहा हूँ अपनी लाइफ के बारे में तो फिक्शन से मेरे को क्या ही सीखने को मिलेगा स्टोरीज ही हैं लाइक अ मूवीज एंड ऑल
True. No, that's
so
true.
why fiction
No, but that's what I'm trying to say. We're talking about work-life balance, right?
yeah
You're taking a break. So fiction mein you're taking a break.
okay
Put your thoughts aside and take a break. Read something. See, it is not like fiction won't teach you anything. Depending on what you're reading, if it's like reasonably good quality fiction, if you're reading Lord of the Rings or something,
yeah
you will get to improve your English vocabulary.
okay
Which you would not if you are reading something very very low level like a web novel or something, right? But that's okay. These are different aspects. Even reading a web novel is interesting because if you read a web novel, you try to understand what kind of novel is this, right?
Yeah.
Like for example, I read some Chinese web novels. It's very interesting to think about what the culture is like in that country,
okay
right? So if you read a web novel about Shanxia or Wuxia, which is like the Chinese fantasy, crouching tiger, hidden dragon kind of thing, it's like okay. Cultivation and very very different terms that you never heard of and never thought of in Indian mythology or Indian context. If you read about Chinese urban life, you try to figure out how their life works, how society in China works, which is again very different from society in India. So it's, and also there are some similarities and where you say, oh, these people are people. They are like us. There are some differences. There are no differences. So you learn some stuff, but the idea behind reading fiction is taking a break primarily.
And relax.
You will learn stuff, but that stuff is not something that you are like trying to it's not like reading a Java book.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a syntax for Java. That's not what you're trying to do. You're trying to just
Relax.
understand, relax, and take a break.
so what advice do you give to a young professional managing multiple teams for the first time like आप प्रोडक्ट मैनेजर भी रहे हो अभी आप आर्किटेक्ट हो तो जो यंग मैनेजिंग करते हैं उनके लिए कुछ एडवाइस
नहीं so firstly it is about first a single team and then multiple team. So to a large extent managing multiple teams is just an extension of managing a single team. So you have to figure out whether you are happy with that role. If you are happy with management and you are looking at that as a future, you should definitely make sure that you are educated in it.
Okay.
And like you understand certain things like appraisal कैसे करते हैं, how do you talk to people, how do you rate people, or how do you manage people and your own time and people's time, etc., right? Those things matter. At the same time, you have to also make sure that you give them the right responsibility and the right authority. Right?
Okay.
So for example, my management style is as simple as possible. I am like, I trust you completely. You do your job. If you screw up, then I will come in and help you, or I will replace you if it's really bad. Right?
Yeah.
So my job is, I expect that anybody who's working, who's an adult, who's working in a company, has a personal sense of responsibility.
Okay.
Right? So I will say, you are responsible for XYZ. I don't want you to work for 8 hours a day. I don't want to show up every day. I don't care if you're WFH or in office. I don't care if you work late nights or work early in the morning. That's all whatever works for you.
Okay.
My goal is that if I tell you in 2 weeks I need XYZ delivered, can you deliver it?
Okay.
Right? That is one thing. Secondly, to a large extent, I have realized this, that people are very hesitant, especially juniors are hesitant about raising any flags. I'm blocked. I need help. So they are not sure. They'll spend a lot of time trying to solve the problem and then come and talk to you.
Okay.
So like for example, it's a 3-day task, right?
Yeah.
Fix this bug or write this code, right? After 2.5 days, they are like, oh, हो नहीं रहा. आधे दिन में कैसे होगा अभी? Right? So if you have a problem, I would, and this I tell everybody I manage or everybody I talk to on a general basis. If you see a problem, raise immediately. Fail fast is the funda. Fail as soon as you see a problem.
Okay.
Right? The first issue you see, you say there's a problem. So at least somebody is aware.
Okay.
We might say, okay, continue. We have time. You can continue investigating on your own because it's a learning experience for you. Trying to troubleshoot, trying to figure out. But sometimes there is no time. You are working on a deadline. At which point a 5-minute help from a senior might save you a day.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
He can just say, don't look at this, look at this. If it's a memory issue, look at this part or whatever, right? That helps quite a bit.
Okay.
So you should be willing to communicate. So communication is, I would say, the number one thing I would suggest to anybody who's managing. You communicate with your subordinates and make sure they communicate with each other and with you. So they should do that. And that's why stand-ups, etc. are a very good idea. Daily stand-ups are very handy for that reason. That you at least talk to somebody at one point in the day. That I am working on XYZ and I am stuck here.
Okay. तो ये क्वेश्चन है कि व्हाट्स योर फेवरेट वे टू रिलैक्स एंड डू यू थिंक स्पेंडिंग टाइम एट पार्टीज एंड शेयरिंग ड्रिंक्स helps build a better connection with people?
So actually my favorite way to relax is reading a book.
Okay.
Number 1, I think number 1, 2 and 3 is reading a book. Okay. Parties I am not so much a fan of. Okay. I am not really socializing. I am not a fan of socializing with people I don't know.
Okay.
So for me, it is more about socializing with people I know. And I love my drink. So I am happy with having a drink with my friends. And I feel that even if you are with, so this is my personal thing. It is nothing to do with teetotalers or whatever. I feel that for me, alcohol is a social lubricant. What it means is that I am more comfortable talking to somebody or spending time with somebody if I have a drink.
Okay.
Right? Otherwise, I would rather just say, okay, nice meeting you. I'll take a book and sit down.
Okay.
Right? So I think I am like an asocial person who becomes a little bit social after a drink.
Okay.
So that is primarily one of the reasons why I would. This helps. This helps me personally. I would say other people have. I know many friends of mine who are social without a drink, and they are very happy. And their lifestyle. That's their lifestyle. This is mine.
Okay. So, what's the most valuable lesson your professional journey has taught you?
I think this might not be true for everybody, but in terms of other careers, but in software, the number one thing I realized is you have to always keep learning.
Yeah.
Okay. And you have to always keep abreast of the latest stuff, latest technologies, latest domains, latest fundamental science, like quantum physics is going to affect all crypto.
Yeah.
But you have to be aware of why. So that is one of the things I would say is important. You should spend some time in a day looking at news, trying to understand, maybe look at some well-known websites, see what the headlines are, and make sure that you are abreast of stuff. I've also spent some time learning new things, technologies or languages or whatever. New type of programming paradigms helps. It basically expands your horizons. You see new things. You might not use them, but it helps you in your existing whatever technology is. For example, if you're a Java programmer who does OOPS kind of programming, but you go and learn something in functional paradigm, and then realize, oh, functional paradigm is interesting. There are some things here that are very useful. Okay, so maybe it comes back to it.
So, ये क्वेश्चन मैं सबसे पूछता हूँ. So, what's the best piece of career advice you have ever received?
I think there are multiple. I would not say one piece, but I have had several interactions with people where
कोई ऐसी जो मतलब आपको हिट की हो कि हाँ.
हाँ, correct, exactly. So I had multiple interactions with people where I realized that you are responsible for yourself.
Okay.
So this is not career, but it works out well. Yeah. So for example, when I was like maybe 2 years experience or something, I had a issue with my salary. Okay. And I went and talked to my manager. I said, I don't like that I didn't get a raise the same as my classmate.
Yeah.
And he said, this is not about your classmate. Right? This is a contract between you and the company.
Okay.
right? And so this is there are just two participants here. Comparing to a classmate is a third participant.
Yeah.
If you are unhappy, you leave,
Okay.
right? Or if you feel that you can get better value, you bring that value. The company will accordingly give you the money or whatever it is, right? Or whatever recognition you want, a promotion or whatever.
Yeah.
But the point is, it is a personal responsibility. So you have to think about, don't look at it in a herd mentality. Or don't look at it in the sense that उसको पैसा मिल रहा है मुझे क्यों नहीं मिल रहा. This is just paisa, but anything. उसको promotion मिला मुझे क्यों नहीं मिला. Right? Anything of that sort. So what you should look at is, am I happy with what I'm doing?
Okay.
Career-wise, money-wise, whatever. In life. So that's why I said it's not just a career thing.
Exactly.
Right? You should look at whether this is right, whether I'm doing the right thing, health-wise, for example. If I'm putting on weight, I need to work out. I need to go on a diet. This is my personal responsibility.
Okay.
I can't say मेरा मुँह मोटा हो रहा हो यार कुछ नहीं हो रहा. You cannot say that, right? You have to look at whether this works out, and you have to take personal responsibility for it.
Okay.
Right?
So this is the last question. ये मेरा personal question था. Can a person become financially free while working in IT sector?
Yes, absolutely.
How?
Well, I would say IT is one of the highest paying fields in India. Right? If you are willing to set aside some money, right, and invest in stock market or some kind of investment, real estate, anything, that is your asset. You decide what you want to do. But figure out a way to generate passive income. Right?
Okay.
The salaries are very high in IT. Right? Maybe you don't realize it if you've not worked in other fields. But really high posts in other companies get a much lower salary than a starting engineer.
Yeah.
Right? So that means that you have a sort of sum that you have available.
Okay.
Right from the first year you start working.
Yeah.
Right? And that if you invest in some kind of reasonably good passive investing, an index fund,
Okay.
or buy some gold or buy a house
Okay.
as an investment, and then sell it over time or rent it off or whatever, you will have a passive source of income.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
At the same time, because you have a lot of free cash.
Okay.
If you are willing to save it, right? People are not. People are happy with spending it upfront.
Yeah.
Then in that case, you will not get financial freedom until you are much older and you have that extra time and extra money, right? You and your wife are working double income, no kids, and all that stuff, right? That's when you have the extra money. Okay. But if you are really focused on trying to get financially free as soon as possible, you should look at the various. There are like a million different things you can go look at, right? Of strategies of how to invest, strategy of how to save, etc., and you can do that and become financially free early.
बट लाइक जैसे हम इन्वेस्ट करेंगे तो एक टाइम के बाद लाइक आफ्टर 40-50 के बाद कुछ ऐसा है कि पर्सन 30-35 की एज में फाइनेंशियली फ्री हो जाए.
See, if you don't have a lot of money coming in from a salary, then I would say that the right way, the fastest way to really become financially free is to figure out a way to have equity. Right?
Okay.
Start a company, grow it quickly, and sell it off or get acquired or do something of the sort. That's how you make money quickly, even in IT.
Okay.
Right?
That like to become an entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur, yeah. You become an entrepreneur, that will work. But the point is, then you're not saying you're working in IT. You are starting a business. You're a businessman at that point of time. So starting as a salaried person, the only real way you can do it is the way I said it.
Okay.
You have to invest somewhere and make the money. If you are trying to make the money in a very short time, invest in a company.
Okay.
So I read this somewhere, I don't remember where. The most optimal place to invest is your own company. Okay.
Very nice.
Okay. So if that is the case, that means that unless you are willing to start a company, you are not going to get that option anyway.
Yeah.
So then the next way is invest in somebody else's company by buying stock.
Okay. So thank you so much, Amol, for your time. आपके एक्सपीरियंस से बहुत कुछ सीखने को मिला.
My pleasure giving you answers, but I would say you talk to some other people also.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.